I'm getting ready to glue the bridge on, and I've got the bridge lined up right where I want it. So the way to do that, there are a couple of considerations with bridge alignment. First, the side-to-side measurements, and then front to back. If it's not lined up side to side, you can have a problem with a string falling off one edge or the other, which of course would be a bad thing. And then the front to back measurement or position determines the intonation, also an important consideration. So when I'm locating the bridge, I first put a straight edge right at the edge of the fretboard at the nut end, and then I put my straight edge in the middle of the E string slot, and I measure the gap or clearance that I have at between the last two frets, and it works out to 3 millimeters on that side, and I want it to be the same on this side. And I've got 3 millimeters. That's good. Oh, by the way, I wound up making a different bridge for this guitar. I decided the original one had a wider string spacing, and I was going to get too close to the edges of the fretboard here. I think the first one was 2 5/16 maybe. Anyway, this one is 2 1/8 inches, and it's much better. That string spacing is almost identical to, well, it is identical to the width at the 12th fret. That seems to work out pretty well for me if I do the string spacing at the bridge the same as the width of the 12th fret. But anyway, I've got the side-to-side position where I want it, and now the critical front-to-back position. So theoretically, the scale length is twice the distance from the nut to the 12th fret. However, if you were to actually locate the bridge right there, the guitar would not play in tune as you move up the neck. As you go up the neck, you distort the string more and more the higher you go when you press down on the string. So the strings tend to go up in pitch. They get sharp as you play up here. So in order to compensate for that, the bridge has to be slid back to make the strings a little longer than the theoretical location where the bridge should be. On steel string guitars, that amount of compensation in the middle of the saddle is about 1/8 of an inch. It's not quite as far at the treble side, and it's a little farther on the bass string. So that's part of why, well, that is why the saddle is sloped. It doesn't go straight across. So what I do to locate the spot I want the bridge to be is I put my straight edge right at the end of the fretboard and look at the location or the measurement at the 12th fret, the middle of the 12th fret. With this ruler, it's 321.5 millimeters. So 321.5 times 2 would be 643. So that's theoretically where I want the middle of the saddle slot between the 3rd and the 4th string. But then, like I said, I'm going to slide the whole thing back 1/8 of an inch, which is 3 millimeters. So instead of 643, I want the middle of the slot to be 646. And then I've got 1/8 of an inch taper from the treble string to the bass string. 1/8 of an inch is 3 millimeters, so if I'm at 646 at the midpoint, I want the location up here to be 644.5. So slide that back just a little. And then I want the location for the bass string to be 647.5. That looks pretty good. Okay, so now I can scribe all the way around and remove all of the lacquer right up to the scribe lines, and then I'll be ready for gluing. I've checked and rechecked this about 6 times because I want to make sure I get it right. So I've got this little awl that I will lightly scribe all around the bridge. I put down tape before I sprayed, and that greatly reduces the amount that I have to scrape off now. And what I am going to do is put masking tape pretty much right on the lines I scribed. I have to stay just outside of those lines, and that will show me where to remove lacquer. So I'll get the lacquer scraped off just about up to those lines. There will be some fraction of a millimeter left, because if I scrape right up to the line, then I might see some bare spots around the bridge if there's any kind of a shift. I'm going to put a few layers of tape and get a little wild with my scraping, and if I only have one layer of tape, I can scrape right through it and damage the finish where it'll show. I checked everything one last time after putting the bridge between all the pieces of tape, and it all looks fine. So I am ready to start scraping. I just do a very little amount of sanding right along the edge of the lacquer. So what I'm trying to do is round it off rather than have this little bit of lacquer I didn't scrape away, rather than have it like sharply go down to the bare wood. I'm just trying to get a gentle curve into it. I don't know if it makes any difference, but I used to not do this And often when I glued the bridge on, I could see the lacquer had kind of crinkled right along the edges of the lacquer, just outside of the bridge. And so now that I've been doing this, that does not seem to happen. So I continue to do it. The only thing left to do before gluing on the bridge is to tape over the bridge pin holes, because if I don't do that, the glue that I put on here is just going to goop up into the holes. So I'll tape those off with a layer of tape, and that'll prevent that from happening, and then I can glue the bridge on. That's that. Now it's time to glue.